I don't fail to change my life because I'm weak. I fail because I keep trying to change my life without changing myself. There are moments when I look at my life and feel a quiet frustration. I know what I want to change. I know what hurts me, what drains me, what keeps me stuck. I know what habits weaken me, what fears limit me, and what patterns repeat again and again. And yet, even with this awareness, I often find myself living the same way, thinking the same thoughts, reacting with the same emotions. I tell myself I will change tomorrow, next week, next month. But tomorrow arrives, and I remain the same. Why is it so hard to change my life even when I sincerely want to? When I look honestly at myself, I see that the difficulty doesn't come from lack of desire. I want to grow. I want to improve. I want to live differently. The problem is that I try to change my circumstances without changing my inner world. I try to adjust the surface while leaving the foundation untouched. And when the foundation stays the same, everything built on it stays the same too. One of the reasons I struggle to change is fear. Not fear of the future, but fear of losing the familiar. Even when the familiar hurts me, it feels safe. It feels predictable. It feels like something I understand. Change requires stepping into uncertainty, and uncertainty makes me feel exposed. I fear making mistakes. I fear choosing wrong. I fear losing what I know, even if what I know is not good for me. Another reason I struggle to change is comfort. Not physical comfort, but emotional comfort. My habits give me a sense of stability. They create routines that feel natural, even if they are unhealthy. When I try to break these routines, I feel discomfort. I feel resistance. I feel tension. And instead of facing this discomfort, I often return to what feels easy. Change requires effort, and effort requires discomfort. Without accepting discomfort, change becomes impossible. I also struggle to change because I often expect transformation to happen quickly. I want immediate results. I want instant clarity. I want fast progress. But real change is slow. It grows quietly, through small decisions, repeated actions, and honest reflection. When I don't see quick results, I feel discouraged. I think I'm failing. I think change isn't working. And I give up before the process has time to unfold. Another obstacle is my inner narrative, the story I tell myself about who I am. If I believe I am weak, I act weak. If I believe I am incapable, I act incapable. If I believe I am stuck, I act stuck. My inner narrative becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And even when I try to change my life, this narrative pulls me back to old patterns. To change my life, I must change the story I tell myself. I also struggle to change because I often try to do it alone. I hide my struggles. I hide my fears. I hide my weaknesses. I don't ask for help. I don't seek guidance. I don't share my journey. And when I face challenges alone, they feel heavier. They feel overwhelming. Change becomes harder when I isolate myself. But when I allow others to support me, change becomes more possible. Another reason change feels impossible is that I often focus on external actions instead of internal roots. I try to change my behavior without changing the emotions that drive it. I try to change my habits without changing the beliefs behind them. I try to change my reactions without changing the wounds that shape them. Real change begins inside, not outside. I also struggle to change because I underestimate the power of small steps. I think change requires dramatic decisions, major shifts, or big breakthroughs. But real change grows through small choices, choosing patience instead of irritation, honesty instead of avoidance, courage instead of fear, gratitude instead of bitterness. When I ignore small steps, I miss the path that leads to transformation. Another obstacle is inconsistency. I begin with enthusiasm, but I don't continue with discipline. I start strong, but I don't stay steady. Change requires repetition. It requires commitment. It requires showing up even when I don't feel motivated. Without consistency, change becomes a series of beginnings without progress. I also struggle to change because I often wait for the perfect moment. I tell myself I will change when I feel ready, when life becomes easier, when circumstances improve. But the perfect moment never arrives. Change begins now, not later. Waiting becomes another form of avoidance. Another reason change feels impossible is that I sometimes expect change to happen without sacrifice. I want a new life, but I want to keep my old habits. I want new peace, but I want to keep my old reactions. I want new clarity, but I want to keep my old distractions. Change requires letting go. Without letting go, nothing new can enter. I also struggle to change because I fear responsibility. Change means taking ownership of my choices, my reactions, and my inner world. It means admitting that I am responsible for my growth. This responsibility can feel heavy, but without it, change becomes impossible. And finally, I struggle to change because I forget that change is not a single event. It is a continuous process. It is not something I achieve once. It is something I practice daily. It is something I build slowly. It is something I grow into. When I understand these obstacles, change becomes less mysterious. It becomes clearer. It becomes more honest. And I begin to see that the reason I cannot change my life is not because change is impossible, but because I have been trying to change the wrong things. To change my life, I must change my beliefs, my habits, my reactions, my expectations, my inner narrative, my willingness to face discomfort, my relationship with fear, my commitment to consistency, my openness to help, my courage to let go. Change begins inside me, not around me. And when I begin to change myself, even slowly, even quietly, even imperfectly, my life begins to change with me.